On the evening of April 10, 1912, the SS Cedric anchored outside of New York, ready to sail into the harbor the next morning. On April 11, Abdu'l-Baha's ship entered the New York harbor. Reporters went out to interview him. Wendell Phillips Dodge of the New York City News Association wrote,
Abdu'l-Baha was found on the upper deck, his long, flowing oriental robe flapping in the breeze. His face was light itself as he scanned the harbor and greeted the reporters. When the ship drew abreast of the Statue of Liberty, Abdu'l-Baha held his arms wide apart in salutation and said,
"There is the New World symbol of liberty and freedom. After being 40 years a prisoner, I can tell you that freedom is not a matter of place, it is a condition. When one is released from the prison of self, that is indeed a release."
Gazing at the skyscrapers, he said,
"These are the minarets of Western world commerce and industry. They seem to stretch heavenward in an endeavor to bring about this universal peace for which we are all working."
Other journalists quizzed him. "Why have you come to America?" He replied,
"To visit the peace societies of America, because the fundamental principles of our cause are universal peace and the promotion of the oneness and truth of all the divine religions."
Concerning women's suffrage, Abdu'l-Baha remarked,
"The world in the past has been ruled by force, and man has dominated over woman by reason of his more forceful and aggressive qualities. But the balance is already shifting. Force is losing its dominance, and mental alertness, intuition, and the spiritual qualities of love and service in which woman is strong are gaining ascendancy."
Many Baha'is and others came out to meet him. Abdu'l-Baha asked that they meet him later. Then, with a small group of companions, he stepped onto the shores of America. Juliet Thompson, a portrait painter and ardent disciple, kept a diary of her interactions with him. She remembers,
"The ship docked, but the master did not appear. Suddenly I had a great glimpse. Beyond the deck, striding to and fro, was one with a step that shook you. Just that one stride, charged with power, the sweep of a robe, a majestic head, turban crowned. That was all I saw, but my heart stopped."
he rested at the Ansonia Hotel on Broadway, then met with a gathering of believers at the Kinney's home. Juliet Thompson recalls,
"He was white and shining. The people stood about in rows and circles, several hundred. Almost everyone there was weeping, just at the sight of him."
Another guest, a Unitarian minister named Howard Colby Ives, noted that,
"In all that crowded mass of folk, so wedged together that tea drinking was almost an impossibility, there was little or no speech. A whispered word, a remark implying awe or love was all. What was it that these people around me had which gave to their eyes such illumination, to their hearts such gladness? I did not know, but I wanted to know."
happy but exhausted, Abdu'l-Baha spoke only a few words that evening.
"This long voyage will prove how great is my love for you. There were many troubles and vicissitudes, but in the thought of meeting you, all these things vanished and were forgotten. As New York has made such progress in material civilization, I hope that it may also advance spiritually, so that the friends here may become the cause of the illumination of America, that this city may become the city of love, and that the fragrances of God may be spread from this place to all parts of the world.
Newspapers trumpeted Abdu'l-Baha's arrival in New York. Among his entourage was Mirza Mahmud Zarghani, known as Mahmud, who chronicled his travels. Mahmud notes,
"Although he disclaimed the station of a prophet, newspapers referred to him as the prophet from the East and the messenger of peace."
In New York, Abdu'l-Baha spoke on themes he would reiterate throughout his journey: the oneness of humankind, the importance of race unity and the elimination of prejudice, the union of the East and West, the promise of world peace, and the equality of women and men, views not common then. He also affirmed a visionary view of America's future. On Tuesday, April 16th, media attention turned to a major disaster. The Titanic had sunk. Responding, Abdu'l-Baha spoke about the fatalities.
When I think of them, I am very sad indeed. But when I consider this a calamity in another aspect, I am consoled by the realization that the worlds of God are infinite, that though they were deprived of this existence, they have other opportunities in the life beyond. Even as Christ has said, "In my Father's house are many mansions."
9 days later, he commented further on the disaster.
These events have deeper reasons, to teach man certain lessons. We are living in a day of reliance upon material conditions. Men imagine that the great size and strength of a ship, perfection of machinery, or the skill of a navigator will ensure safety. But God is the real protector.
Later, when he was asked why he hadn't sailed on the Titanic, Abdu'l-Baha said, "My heart did not prompt me to do so." In his first 11 days in New York, Abdu'l-Baha gave 15 formal talks and countless informal ones in homes and private studios. The first public address was at the Episcopal Church of the Ascension. A few months earlier, the minister, Percy Stickney Grant, had warned against this new religious cult, as he considered it. But now he welcomed Abdu'l-Baha to his church, where the Persian sage spoke about spiritual civilization.
Today, the world of humanity is in need of international unity and conciliation. The propelling power is needed. The unity of the human world cannot be accomplished through material means.
Controversy erupted when Abdu'l-Baha sat in the bishop's chair and spoke from the chancel, breaking with Episcopal tradition. A media-fueled debate was quelled only when the bishop himself came to the hotel to thank him for honoring them with his talk. Edward Getzinger, one of the Baha'is helping to arrange Abdu'l-Baha's itinerary, wrote,
New York has given Abdu'l-Baha a most dignified and praiseful reception. Sunday morning service in Church of Ascension was crowded to standing room. The great men of the city are beseeching him for interviews. Mr. Carnegie asks for him at his home.
Others, too, invited him to their homes. Arthur Pillsbury Dodge, an inventor and publisher, held a public meeting where Abdu'l-Baha spoke on the unity of nations. East-West unity was often the subject of Abdu'l-Baha's discourse. To the New Thought Society at Carnegie Lyceum, he said,
I have come here with this mission that through your endeavors a perfect bond of unity and love may be established between the East and the West, so that all may be seen to be the parts of the same tree, the great tree of the human family.
At Earl Hall, Columbia University, Abdu'l-Baha spoke on modern science, praising its power to discover the secrets of nature. So many in the enthralled audience came to talk to him afterwards that a tour of the campus had to be canceled. But some seemed eager to quarrel. An inventor of explosives, Hudson Maxim, came to his hotel to meet with what he considered to be a curious old man who who spoke naively about peace.
Fewer men are killed in war in a year now than are killed by our industries through preventable accidents,
Maxim said to Abdu'l-Baha, who responded,
War is the most preventable accident. Your name has become famous in the science of war. Now you have the opportunity of becoming doubly famous. You must practice the science of peace.
During his first days in America, Abdu'l-Baha went to see a Broadway play, The Terrible Meek, about the crucifixion of Christ, at which he wept. Charles Rand Kennedy, the playwright, later came to his hotel to see him and told others,
I was in the presence of God.
In New York, Juliet Thompson introduced Abdu'l-Baha to Lebanese poet and artist Khalil Gibran, who created a portrait of him. Gibran was moved by the experience, writing,
He is a very great man. He is complete. There are worlds in his soul. And oh, what a remarkable face, a beautiful face. For the first time, I saw a form noble enough to be the receptacle of the Holy Spirit.
Gertrude Kaispier, a portrait photographer, took his image in her studio. Individuals who sought Abdu'l-Baha often received what they needed from him in surprising ways. One day, Reverend Howard Colby Ives went to the Hotel Ansonia hoping for a private meeting with Abdu'l-Baha without an interpreter, even though Ives spoke no Persian and Abdu'l-Baha's English was limited. The reception room was already overflowing, but suddenly Abdu'l-Baha emerged and beckoned Ives to join him.
I was absolutely alone with Abdu'l-Baha. He spoke, and in my own tongue. Softly came the assurance that I was his very dear son. What earthly paternal relationship could equal this? My throat swelled, my eyes filled. We sat in the two chairs by the window, knee to knee, eye to eye. At last, he looked right into me. It was as if his very being opened to receive me. With that, the heart within me melted and the tears flowed. He wiped the tears from my face, admonishing me not to cry, that one must always be happy. And he laughed, such a ringing, boyish laugh. Then Abdu'l-Baha placed his hand upon my breast, saying that it was the heart that speaks. Suddenly, he leaped from his chair with another laugh, as though consumed with a heavenly joy. Turning, he took me under the elbows and lifted me to my feet and swept me into his arms. Such a hug. He kissed me on both cheeks, laid his arm across my shoulders, and led me to the door. That is all. But life has never been quite the same since.
Abdu'l-Baha elicited journalistic curiosity and sometimes skepticism. Mary Williams, a rare female newspaper columnist who wrote under the name Kate Carew, was famous for her acerbic portraits of celebrities. Following a surprisingly respectful interview at the Hotel Ansonia, Abdu'l-Baha invited Carew to his next engagement. Tenderly grabbing her hand and ushering her to a waiting automobile, Carew caught herself thinking about how this astonishing hand-in-hand encounter with an old Persian gentleman was material for a gently mocking anecdote.
Just then, the master said to me in a gentle but firm voice, "Remember, you press people are the servants of the public. You interpret our words and acts to them. With you is a great responsibility. Please remember and please treat us seriously."
Abdu'l-Baha escorted Carew to the Bowery Mission, where he spoke to hundreds of impoverished men.
Tonight I am very happy, for I have come here to meet my friends. I consider you my relatives, my companions. Jesus Christ has said, "Blessed are the poor." It was the poor who first accepted him, not the rich. Your lives are similar to his life. Your attitude is like unto his. Therefore, we will thank God that we have been so blessed with real riches. I ask you to accept Abdu'l-Baha as your servant.
After his address, he was handed a bag by one of his companions. Carew asked what was in it. Abdu'l-Baha whispered, "Some little lucky bits I'm going to distribute."
What do you think those lucky bits were? Silver quarters, $200 worth of them. Think of it, someone coming to America and distributing money, not here with the intention of taking it away. Not a man was shelterless that night. As I went out into the starlight night, I murmured the phrase of an Oriental admirer who had described him as the breeze of God.
Thornton Chase, the first American Baha'i, expressed amazement that Kate Carew refused to poke fun at him.
There you see it, the purifying, uplifting effect he has upon even a Kate Carew. There is evidently a certain strength, sincerity, righteousness, wisdom, knowledge, and nobility manifesting from him, that even our flippant and callous newsmen are restrained by it.
His days in New York were a whirlwind of meetings, lectures, and interviews with journalists.